Welcome back to Coaster Crazy Conversations, where we talk about all things theme parks, roller coasters, and everything in between. I'm Fred, your host, also known as the Coaster Crazy Guy, and today I'm joined by UK Thrills. In today's episode, we're looking ahead to the future of theme parks, how they might evolve, new technology, and what we could see from the UK parks in the next few years. But before we begin, let's hear from UK Thrills. Do you want to introduce yourself and a bit about your content?
Hi, I mostly start in Planet Coast content, but I also do upload some real life videos, mostly at Blackpool Pleasure Beach as it is my home park.
So, what got you into theme parks in the first place?
So originally I was actually scared of roller coasters. I went to Disney a few times beforehand and I just wouldn't go on any rides at all. My parents would try to force me on and I just started crying in queue lines and it wouldn't work. But eventually after Icon opened...
And this was when he was 12.
And eventually after Icon opened, in 2018, they convinced me because they said they'd buy me something from the shop. So I went on, I braved it, and it was actually really fun. So from that moment, I started to get into roller coasters, started watching more videos, and yeah, here I am, the big nerd I am.
Yep. And what's your favourite UK park at the moment?
So at the moment, my favourite UK theme park is actually Fort Park. So it's a little weird considering I'm a roller coaster enthusiast, but I'm actually scared of heights. So Hyperia being the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the UK, it's just really thrilling for me. I love the air time, love the feeling you have on it, and especially on the first drop and the Crema roll.
Nice. Well, thanks for that. Let's get into the main segment. Alright, let's get into it. To start off, here's just a general question about the future of theme parks. When you think about the future of theme parks, what do you think is going to change the most?
Well, personally, I feel like, obviously the rides, there's not going to be as many wooden coasters compared to steel coasters. And I feel like nowadays a lot of other parks, they're mostly dominated by manufacturers like B&M, who used to be the top of the ranks back in the day. But now I feel like smaller manufacturers that used to not get many rides, like Mack or Vekoma, who used to have the worst rides arguably, they're rising to the top now and being better than B&M.
So that's quite interesting you speak of that. What do you think will be the top manufacturer in, let's say, 20 years' time? Do you think it will be something that's maybe quite prominent now and takes even a bigger role? It will be something like RMC did and just burst straight onto the market and be something new we haven't seen yet? Or do you think it'd be one of these smaller ones like Sierra or SNS?
Well, I don't think...
Are SNS still going?
Yeah. I don't know about Sierra or SNS, but maybe manufacturers like Premier, who previously weren't really thought about, with the Skyrockets, but with Alpen Fury, they've really had an opportunity to shine at Canada's Wonderland, and I feel like it's a well-received ride and looks really awesome. So maybe they could be rising to other parks' lists to, install a ride from them. But there's also obviously Vekoma, who are doing really well at the moment with their tilt coasters and the MK1101 models. Intamin, they've been doing well for quite a few years now, and they've introduced the LSM launch coaster with a fast switch track, so launch forwards and backwards.
Do you think that maybe over time these novelties will wear out? For example, RMC, at the moment they do seem like a one-trick pony with their RMC hybrids. Obviously they've got the single rail tracks, but they aren't nearly as good as the hybrids. Do you think maybe in 20 years' time the novelty could wear off?
Well, I feel like the novelty might already be starting to wear off, because compared to when RMC was first talked about with like Iron Gwazi, Steel Vengeance and all that, they've barely had any projects. The most recent one I can name is Yoi, and then there's nothing else that seems interesting that's going on with them at the moment.
Yeah. So what do you think about the queuing system? Do you think anything like that will change? Maybe become more of a virtual queue system for all rides, or I can't think of another example on the spot, so carry on.
Well, I feel like some queue systems do need to be changed that are currently used, but I feel like newer ones like a virtual queue, as you say, could be implemented, but I think they can do better than what Disney did when Guardians of the Galaxy first opened and Tron opened. Because me personally, I don't mind waiting in long queues, and I really wanted to go on Guardians of the Galaxy multiple times, but the only way I could have done that is I was there for the second e-ticket for the virtual queue, or if I spent money on the Speedy Pass. And then also with Speedy Pass, I feel like that needs to be changed in a lot of parks, because many parks have like really big queues, like such as Alton Towers here in the UK. But that could also just all be down to their Speedy Pass system being all wrong. Parks like Euro Park, they don't have Speedy Pass at all, but nobody complains about their queue time length because they're always constantly moving.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think that in, like I said, 20 years' time, Fast Track might be a thing of the past?
I feel like it could still be an option, because there are some parks that handle it quite well. I can't think of an example at the moment.
For example, Disney and Universal, I think, do Fast Pass really
like
well.
that. I feel like they just need to be moderated more. Like with Hyperion at Fort Park, when I was there for my second day at the park, I ran straight to Hyperion. We were stood at the front of the queue for about 5 minutes before the main queue started moving in, because they just kept moving Fast Pass going forward and forwards.
That's interesting. So you're saying that Fast Track may not go extinct yet, however, the way that it's currently being run might start to phase out.
Yeah, I feel like it's now more of like something everyone goes for instead of the main queue. And then I also feel like Fast Track may not be the only problem. It could also be the accessibility pass, especially in Merlin parks.
So what do you think could change between the two? Like how do you think these could be improved in the future?
Well, I think with the accessibility pass, what the recent change with Alton Towers did, while it may have angered some people, I feel like it's something they might have needed to do to actually make it, for the people who can't go in the main queue. Like those with disabilities who are in a wheelchair who physically cannot go upstairs, or some people who may not be able to deal with large crowds or standing in the same place for a while. I just feel like some people abuse it, and especially sometimes the person who gets the accessibility pass doesn't even go on a ride, and the people who are perfectly fine to wait in the main queue just use the disability pass to skip the queue.
And in theory this works really well, but in practice, how do you define who needs it and who just kind of finds the normal queues unpleasant?
Well, that's the hard part, because you can't be too disrespectful to any audience, and none of this is like meant for disrespect to anyone out there.
Obviously, guys, for you listening at home, we are not the professionals, so if we said anything that's either wrong or you got offended by it, we're really both sorry. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think should happen. Something I've noticed recently is how many parks are starting to rely on more and more IPs, especially places like Chessington. Do you think the UK parks are moving more towards something like a movie park style experience?
Well, I don't think it's the whole of UK, seeing as of right now it's mostly only Chessington. Well, you could make an argument for Alton Towers with Bluey, but that's their CBeebies land, that's for the kids, that's for the series is. But well, I feel like it could work. I feel like most parks may as well just stay with their own classic themes, like with Nemesis. Nemesis is a really well put together ride, and it's made up completely on their own, and everyone loves that ride.
It's finding that balance really, because I don't think a park fully based on IPs could work. I know that's ironic because there's literally theme parks called Movie Park. However, in England, we have that. In England, we have the creativity, as you've seen by Alton Towers, to create the original ideas. So, obviously, bringing in those IPs can bring in crowds that don't tend to normally go to theme parks, or you can appeal to a bigger crowd. And they are great. I love to see the IPs. For example, Wallace and Gromit. Who doesn't love Wallace and Gromit? And Walking Dead. Walking Dead is great. But there's something special about those original ideas that just can't be found in an IP. But is there anything you want to add?
I agree with all the statements you said there, Parks like Pleasure Beach or Fort Park that are very small amounts of IP-based rides. I think they found the right balance with like Alice in Wonderland, Wallace and Gromit, but then they also have Icon, which is its own style, and Evictus that just opened. That's got its own really nice style around the area.
Yeah, and do you think that it's a good thing that parks are trying to take on IPs, or do you think that parks are just losing their originality?
I feel like it can both be good and bad. I feel like with Chessington, now that I really think about it, it might be going a bit overboard, All their older rides are just their original stuff, but now all the new stuff, like Jumanji, and then now Minecraft. It's all, and also Paw Patrol. It's all just real life IPs, and it could just make them lose originality as a park and just become a movie park.
That's interesting, actually. Since we're on the subject of Chessington, do you think that both Jumanji and Minecraft can coincide together?
Well, I feel like they don't have to coincide together, as they are their own separate lands. Because you've also got Land of the Tiger, and then you can go into a Paw Patrol themed land. So I just feel like they need to make sure it's a different land, and it's like somehow flows nicely, if that makes any sense.
It does, but do you feel that in a theme park with two lands directly beside each other, like Jumanji and Minecraft, obviously they're two completely different things. However, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at it, they're both rather similar in the way that they're portrayed out, because they're both set in, like, I feel the way that Chessington has described Minecraft, it does feel like a bit like Jumanji, but just obviously made with bricks rather than real stuff. Do you think that it could feel a bit repetitive?
I feel like it could be, while the rides will be pretty much wildly different. Or you could also say they're not, with potentially even backwards sections. But aside from that, one's a cube reality and one's a jungle forest based off a game.
So that's interesting, really. One question I do want to ask, do you think that gaming IPs are the future for attracting new audiences? For example, like, a lot of younger audiences tend to lean towards playing video games nowadays rather than, let's say, watching a movie or a TV series. Do you think that's the way to go for attracting a younger audience?
Well, I feel like that's exactly why. So, as you said, kids are more into games now, and Minecraft is a very popular game with young children, and even like young adults and even adults. So it's a hit for everyone that everyone will enjoy. And it'll just attract the park loads of new customers and returning customers for something that's probably going to be a really nice looking land and bring back memories or new memories for people.
But do you think, taking Minecraft out of the equation, just gaming in general, at theme parks in general, do you think using gaming IPs are the way to go forward for theming to attract younger audiences?
Well, I feel like it could work in some states. I don't think every IP needs to be a gaming IP. Like, some films could be a really nice IP for any park, really. But I also feel like, as we've said before, most parks need to keep their originality and make their own themes, or just do a standard, boring old car park ride.
Fair enough. And just a quick overall general question. IPs or original idea for you? What's your personal take?
For me personally, I prefer original themes like, Nemesis and Hyperia. But I don't mind IPs at all.
Depending on the IP. Sometimes it can ruin it. Muppets. So for me, I love original ideas, but I do love IPs if they're done properly. If they're slapped on screens, that is not the way to go. I feel IPs can be great for drawing in audiences. However, original ideas just have certain charms to them. It's just finding that balance of both, really. Another big change is how technology is being used in the parks now. Things like digital tickets, apps, queuing systems, lightning lanes, hotel reservations, dining reservations, even places like Blackpool Pleasure Beach are starting to move more in that direction. Do you think this improves the overall experience, or does it take something away from it, or even make it more complicated?
Well, I feel like it depends which park we talk about here, because some parks, they handle it really well, where it's a good balance between you need your phone and you don't need your phone to do it. But there are other parks where it's really horrible, and it can also make it more annoying. So with like Pleasure Beach, I find theirs quite annoying, where how every ride you have to use your phone's e-ticket. But a simple fix for that, which I feel like they need to promote more around the park, is you can go into their guest services building and then they print out a free physical ticket for you. So the physical tickets, I feel like they can also be annoying, how if you scrunch them up or something like that, you physically cannot scan them anymore. So that's why the phone can come in handy, but your phone could be lacking in charge or something. Maybe you forgot to charge it the night before.
And what about the speedy passes? What do you think about those being completely digitised?
Well, I feel like with the speedy pass, it doesn't really matter too much, as most of the time you're going to be paying with your phone anyway. Because a lot of things in the world are just becoming cashless now due to like all these credit cards, debit cards, and it's just a lot easier to have everything all on your phone instead of having physical cash, which you may be able to lose. So with the Speedy Pass e-tickets, which you have to spend money on anyway, it does kind of make sense to be on the phone.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to talk about Disney a sec, because I am a big Disney fan. I'm pretty sure when I'm older I will be a Disney adult. No shame in that at all. What do you think, though? This is where I start to think a little bit about how Disney run with the app system. It's basically impossible to do Disney right and properly without the app, because it's where you make your dining reservations, it's where you make your hotel reservations, it's your room key, it's also your park entry pass. They also use your lightning lanes on it, queue times, everything is all on that app, so it can make things a lot more complicated, especially if you're trying to do Disney for a first time. Taken from someone who knows, it can be absolutely confusing as hell.
Well, from my personal experience, I've not been to Disney for many years. When I went, it was still, Tron was still not open, and it was still a digital.
With the Magic Band, obviously, for a standard one, I think it's about $40, and for a themed one, it's about $80, which I think is quite expensive as something that most people class as a necessity for a Disney vacation, or holiday as we Brits say. But like you said with the costs, I just want to promote this a sec, because all Brits who go to Florida need this. If you go to any quick service location, they will always give you free iced water anywhere, unlimited. It is such a great thing that Disney do, and I'm pretty sure Universal do it as well. Most parks in Florida do it. You take advantage of it because it gets pretty flipping hot out there, and yeah, you need to stay hydrated. Anyway, enough about that. That is not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today? Getting back onto the subject of the app, do you think that nowadays it is getting too difficult to be able to do stuff without having everything to be digitized?
Well, I feel like with all the Disney things, that seems definitely really annoying and really fiddly to try get everything sorted. But I feel like some parks, they've got the perfect balance, whereas like Fort Park, for example, you have the app for that, and I'm pretty sure you can't get a physical ticket before you get in without paying. So you do need your phone to get into the park. But throughout the park itself, they have the queue time boards outside the rides and giant boards throughout the park which show queue times of every ride they have. So you don't necessarily need your phone for everything in the park, but as I'm mostly aware, most UK theme parks are going cashless, and I'm pretty sure they are too.
And it's about finding that balance, really, because they can be really useful. Phones can, when, like you say, using your e-ticket or using the queue times. But it's also great having that balance of real life things as well, because you go to a theme park to spend time with people. You don't go to a theme park to basically spend your whole day with your head in your phone, checking queue times, sorting out reservations, making it basically really stressful when it shouldn't be. One question I do want to ask is, what's one piece of technology that you do think every theme park should have?
I feel like all theme parks definitely need the queue boards, like I mentioned at Fort Park, both next to the ride and around the park. Especially in Europe, I've seen them in Phantasialand, that works really well. And also Europa Park.
Great. But of course, technology in the theme parks isn't always just about the apps or the signage. It's about the theme park rides themselves. Let's talk about technology in the theme parks and on the rides themselves. For example, Rise of the Resistance. That is an engineering marvel, because if you haven't been on that ride, it's basically indescribable to anyone who hasn't, because it's a dark ride, drop tower, trackless dark ride, show scene, interactive, whatever, combined into one insane attraction. And honestly, it's mind-boggling how they've done it, because I have no idea, which is great for a budding theme park designer, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the engineering of the Rise of the Resistance especially is just, it's amazing how they do it. Some of the tricks they use, using like proper illusionary magic in a theme park ride. It's something you probably never even hear of like anywhere else. But then there's also other technologies on roller coasters themselves, such as Intamin's Fast Switch Track. That's been a hit with the public, with Tutatis, especially at Park Asterix, where I never even heard of the park until Tutatis opened, which is just a normal Intamin LSM launch coaster, but midway through the ride it goes into a rolling LSM launch with an airtime hill in the middle. So it launches forwards, doesn't make it all the way up, launches backwards even faster, goes up a vertical spike, which from what I've heard feels amazing, and then you launch at your top speed all the way through the layout, and it just looks incredible with the airtime being turned to the max, just pure ejector.
And of course we can't forget about Falcon's Flight when talking about theme park technology. Who thought that we'd live to see the day an Exocoaster was built? And if you don't know what that means a roller coaster over 600 feet in the air. I think that is absolutely mind-boggling how Intamin have managed to build that. In 2025 as well, maybe in 2040 maybe, but nowadays it's absolutely insane that the engineering skills we've got, because honestly I think most people listening can agree. Would you believe that a 600-foot roller coaster is actually operating on the planet right now?
I know I wouldn't.
What do you think actually led to the designers of Six Flags Qiddiya thinking, let's bypass the 500, who needs those? Let's go straight to 600 feet and just give them hell to the rest of it. That is definitely, if it hasn't already, this has definitely put an end to the coaster wars.
Well, I feel like the park, with Saudi Arabia, it's kind of a bit of a controversial country, being in the Middle East and everything, and being in the dead centre of a desert, so pretty hard to get to. So I feel like they really needed that one thing, on top of all the other amazing record-breaking rides they have, just that one thing that attracts everyone, all enthusiasts, anyone who knows about anything to do with roller coasters. Just, you hear the old World Source roller coaster was only like 458 feet, and then you hear one that's nearly like 200 foot taller than that, it instantly makes you feel like you want to ride it. But I also feel like if you make it down to the really blunt basics of it, it's not that different to any other roller coaster. It's just a launched coaster that goes 640 foot in the air.
Well, when you put it like that, anything can seem like a small achievement. And I'm sure there's people that are going at home, no, it's definitely a little bit more than just a launch coaster that's 600 foot.
There's also the fact that it's also in the middle of a desert. You've got the wheels that will probably be some of the hottest wheels on any roller coaster out there, and you've got to cool it down within enough time to get dispatches and keep the queue short so people aren't waiting for wheels to get cooled down.
And I think that's an engineering marvel in itself, is not just thinking about these incredible stats, but how it can operate smoothly and cost efficiently with maintenance, well, as much as a 600-foot roller coaster can operate cheaply.
And also, from what I've seen, they don't suffer much downtime with the ride at all. I've heard a lot of bad things about the queue, a lot of queue jumping and people putting in, but the actual overall uptime of the ride is pretty much constant, and there's only been a few rollbacks for the fact about how slow it goes over that after that second launch.
Yeah. So if you have to sum it up, what's the biggest change you think we'll see in theme parks over the next 10 years?
Well, in the next years, I do believe, obviously, ride systems will be improved a lot. I don't know about the height record, or a lot of the records Falcon's Flight smashes, considering, especially the length. Steel Dragon 2000 being like 8,000 something meters, whereas Falcon's Flight is 13,000, so you can stack two roller coasters and it still won't be at that length. But there has been talks, apparently, according to someone who wants to make an 1,000-foot roller coaster somewhere. Personally, Falcon's Flight, a lot of arguments could say it's not actually 600 foot tall, because the only part that's actually as tall as they say is the 540 foot camelback, and that's from the ground level, whereas the 600 foot point is on a hill. So,
right, it's time for the quickfire round. Future Edition. First thing that comes to mind, no overthinking, and then at the end we'll come back to your answers. More theming or more thrill?
Personally, I actually think more family coasters. I know that's not on the board, but most people build more family coasters, but I would personally like to see more thrill coasters.
VR in the theme parks, yes or no?
Definitely not.
Bigger parks or better parks?
Personally, better parks.
One UK park with the most potential?
Paulton's Park.
Go on then, explain your answers.
Well, if you look at like past coasters, even parks like Cedar Point who don't really have theming, they put a lot more effort with Siren's Curse, there's Alton Towers with Bluey, but they're also known with their theming. I can't really think of anything else on that topic. I just think parks are trying to put more effort into their rides. Personally, for me, I feel like people already find roller coasters itself too motion sick.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. A big thanks to UK Thrills for joining me. But before we go, a little bit about you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
What kind of content do you post?
Yeah, I mostly post POVs on Planet Coaster of my builds. My upload schedule is quite horrible, but I'm trying to make it better as we speak. And as of recently, I've also started posting more real-life theme park content, mostly from Pleasure Beach, because it's my home park, and I find it pretty hard to go to other theme parks.
And have you got anything exciting coming up?
Well, I'm pretty close to finishing this really cool themed Gerstlauer launch coaster, and then I'm also gonna be posting a video about a ride that's gonna have so many versions. It's a little spoiler, it's 70 plus. It's very unrealistic.
Well, thanks for listening. Make sure to check out UK Thrills and give them a follow, and don't forget to follow me as well. And I'll see you in the next episode for some more Coaster Crazy conversations.